I'm sitting in my nearly finished, it'll never really be finished I guess, custom YouTube studio I built into the garage of my new house. I made a video on my other channel about building out the space and all of what's in here, epoxying the floor, putting up the shelves, so if you want to see that part, open this video in a new tab. But over here on this channel, I'm going to talk about this shot you're seeing here, dirty. The lighting, the audio, the lenses, and what settings I'm using to make this look like this. Because this is a really big change for me. From this, a warehouse where I used to shoot all my videos, to this, a 20 by 25 foot garage space. The warehouse has no AC, and it's summer in Florida now, so this move was practically necessary. Back at the warehouse, I had been shooting my main angle at 85 millimeters for like the last 3 years. I'm convinced it's basically the perfect focal length for shooting something like a person who's sitting and talking at something like a desk. But in order to shoot at 85 millimeters, the camera has to be at least 15 feet away from you if you want to get your whole head and shoulders in the shot, which works great in a 100-foot deep warehouse, but not so much in a garage. So now I've switched to the Sigma 50mm f1.4 art lens, which is what you're seeing me through now. This is 50 millimeters in a 20 by 25 foot space. The camera's about 6 feet in front of me. I paid the extra for the 1.4 lens to make up for having significantly less space behind me while still getting a pretty good separation due to this narrow depth of field. I have my second camera set up on a slider just behind my primary one, shooting at 30 millimeters and moving back and forth. And actually, this is a Sony a7S III, so it's a full frame camera, but I'm shooting it on a 30 millimeter APS-C lens. At first, that's just because that was the only other f1.4 lens that I had. But after seeing it, I really like how when I switch to the wider shot so you can see more of the room, and I'm trying to block my rim light from screwing up the shot, but you get this really, really heavy vignette on both sides of the shot. I shot almost my whole Christmas vacation to England and Scotland this way on little crop body lenses on a full frame camera. I really like some of these darker, rainier pictures with the super exaggerated vignette edges. It's probably not for everyone, and it uses a ton of ink if you print out your own photos, which you should do. For this shot, I have both cameras set in HLG3, shooting at 1/60th shutter speed, ISO 125, and the aperture is wide open at f1.4. The white balance is set to manual at 5300K to match the lights, which are somewhere around that. I think they might actually be 55 or 5600K. But with this whole configuration, I don't have to do any color correction in the edit. What you're seeing now is how the shot comes straight out of the camera, which is great for streamlining a YouTube channel. Anyway, I like using two cameras for regular talking headshots, so I have something to cut back and forth to. Pretty much to hide the cuts from when I forget what I was gonna say, or from stuttering, or from trying out different lines different ways. I don't actually speak this continuously in real life. Each camera is also plugged into a monitor, so I can see if anything strange happens. Very rarely, but sometimes some shape in the background will trick the autofocus into thinking it's a face, and you'll ruin a shot. So I can see if that happens, I can see what it's focusing on, and I can see if I'm gonna run out of card space, or I can see if it stops recording for any number of reasons. I think shooting with a monitor is a great upgrade if you can manage to not look at yourself during the shoot. I guess that's kind of a fun little Easter egg about my channel. If you ever catch me looking in this particular direction, it means I'm staring at myself in the monitor, which I'll do sometimes if I'm like holding something up and I want to make sure it got in focus, but I'll also, I don't know, just look at myself sometimes. I think I already said it, both of these cameras are about 5 or 6 feet in front of me, but this, where I'm sitting, was another of my custom features I built into my garage studio. I wasn't sure which wall I wanted to use for the background, I'm still not sure, or that I would always want this same shot to look this same way anyway. So I decided to build my desk onto this little stage with wheels on it. I can literally move the whole situation around the room super easily and reposition it however I like to try out different situations. And I plan to get my lighting system here up onto these little rails that have these little trolleys. So this is called Unistrut, and it comes in these 10-foot lengths. And then they make these little just rolling trolleys that fit into it, so I can connect my lighting to these, and I'll be able to just put that up in the ceiling, have no cords on the floor, and I'll be able to pull my lights around wherever I decide I want my desk for that shot. But that's a future upgrade. Let's move on to the lighting. For a key light, I'm using two different 100-watt LED video lights for my face and desk on two fairly giant soft boxes. And I keep them kind of way off to one side for a more dramatic contrast of light on my face. Right now, those are the Amaran 100D and the SmallRig 120D. The bigger the light source you use, the softer the shadows will be on your face and skin. And the older you get, the more soft light will help you like what you see in the monitor over there. I am old as hell. Hence, 6 feet of soft lighting over here. And the other side of my face is pretty much only lit up by my computer monitor, which I just keep my script up on also, and it works pretty good as a little fill light. Here, let me turn it off for a second. No computer monitor, computer monitor. No computer monitor, computer monitor. Over behind me, I have another light just with a reflector on it so that it doesn't shoot too much light and light up the whole room. That light is just meant to hit my back and the back of my head. See how I kind of get this glow around my neck and my shirt? That'll give me some separation from the background, even if it does diminish the quality of camera 2 when it's shooting straight into the lens when I'm not blocking the light. Ambient light is also the reason I painted this whole room a matte finish, really dark gray. I can still sort of create a mood on it by shooting RGB light like you can see under the tables back there, but all this light from these main lights now won't be bouncing around the room and screwing up the shot that I'm after. When I'm shooting, the main garage lights, like the installed garage lights, are off, so everything that lights up is controlled in one way or another. All the mess behind me back there is on programmable smart bulbs, so they're easy to dim during filming. Having a full powered bulb in lamps in the background of your shot can be a little overpowering in my opinion. Set Nick's studio to 100%. See, that's too much background. We need more separation. It needs to be darker back there. Alexa, make Nick's studio blue. That's nice. Alexa, make Nick's studio white. Alexa, set Nick's studio to 40%. That's better. It's handy having everything voice automated too, so I can match the mood of whatever I'm talking about, in case I'm just enraged about something and everything needs to turn red. Did I time that right? I think I did. For audio, I've gone through a few different microphone setups over the years. Right now I'm in my boom mic phase. So there's a Rode VideoMic NTG just out of frame here. I used to use a pod mic on one of those springy arms, but that tends to get in the way if I'm doing something with my hands, which I am so often doing. And this sounds basically just as good and maybe looks more natural if you can't see the microphone. I don't know. I was pretty surprised at just how good this mic can sound, even though it's a couple of feet away from my mouth. The way shotgun mics work is that they very clearly capture anything directly in front of them while sort of trying to keep out the sound from around them and behind them. So it's a great mic to mount on top of the camera for in-person interviews at tech conventions, which is something I occasionally do on my other channel. I could run this mic straight into my camera and it should sound just as good, but I use this Rodecaster 2 because it'll always be set to the perfect gain for this microphone. And on my camera, I fairly often swap out what's on top. For instance, just this week, I'm testing out 2 different microphone sets from Godox, and they're gonna need a slightly different audio gain level than this shotgun mic would use, and I will almost certainly forget to set that back to higher or lower, I think it's higher, when I'm done with it. And so if I get back to my desk and record a video and I didn't look at the audio to change everything back for this particular microphone, the sound might be completely blown out or just way too quiet and I'll have to reshoot everything. So pretty much using a dedicated audio interface is just a defense mechanism against myself because I can't trust me enough to be thorough with my settings. Also, it's got cool multicolored buttons and I kind of like them just to be barely out of the frame there. This is connected to my laptop with the USB-C cable, so after I'm done shooting, you can just send the data on over. Just mounts like a thumb drive on the desktop. And since I'm already syncing 2 other camera angles anyway to make this shot, it's no extra work to sync a third audio-only angle in Final Cut Pro. It doesn't really make my editing process any slower. This thing does have a bunch of built-in audio processing, and I do have some of that turned on, even though I do tend to go through the audio in Final Cut and add an EQ that pretty much does the same thing. Is that camera still on? I've done a little bit of sound dampening treatment in this room. I shot some stuff in this garage when it was completely empty to prepare for this comparison. A completely concrete room is pretty much the worst imaginable circumstance for audio. This is the sound you can expect from a totally concrete room. So there is a really obvious difference between that and this, but a lot of that is just having stuff in the room. An audio wave coming out of your mouth has a limited amount of energy contained in it. If it has just flat, hard surfaces to bounce off of, those waves will keep bouncing around and make a ton of reverb. The harder and smoother the surface, the more audio can bounce off of it. But the more stuff with the more angles and rough surfaces it has to contend with, the more those audio waves will bounce around chaotically and run out of energy before they make it back into the microphone as tiny little echoes. So I've put up these thick felt sheets right in front of where I talk to catch the majority of my voice. Felt has tons of tiny little fibers that will redirect sound waves millions of times, so they spend a lot of their energy bouncing around in the felt and don't have much energy left to come back into the room. Clearly, this is far from a deadened, sound-treated room, but I'm impressed by how nice it sounds in here for this being a concrete room with a concrete floor. There's also a pretty big rug on the floor by the entryway, which does a lot of the same stuff as the felt. Carpet will go a long way in your... I occasionally add haze completely randomly to videos. There's just something about a hazy room that looks more pro than a room without it. And I started this video with haze and then just let it dissipate through filming until there's pretty much nothing left now. So if you want to see the difference between haze and no haze, just back up this video real quick to the beginning. Did I forget anything? I think that's it. There's a list down below with links to all this stuff in case you're looking for ideas for how to improve your studio space. I want your shots to look nice. Goodbye.